Vipers dressed in empath's clothing. All right, so I think I get the good name thing, but let's go by like line by line. It's interesting because she's actually able to capture the idiom without even saying the idiom. And then she says to rise above it, which is actually, that's another idiom, right? Let's see. And she's about to jump into the opening up of the world and the opening up of the instrumentation in the actual song. No, I'm not coming to my senses is like she's not saying she's not crazy. She's saying it's an interesting point, right? I'm not coming to my senses means she's not denying losing it. She's just saying she doesn't want to leave this delusion. Hey everyone, it is time for a new reaction and analysis. So this time, I'm trying something a little different, and instead of reaction first and analysis later, I'm going to edit in the after-the-fact analysis throughout at the relevant moments. And you'll be able to tell my outfit changed and which parts I recorded on a different day than that night that I recorded the initial reaction to the song. And by the way, I was so exhausted that night that I was doing the initial reaction. That was the last reaction in a series of 6 that night, because, this is track 6. And I did them all in a row, and I was taking such a long time on each one that it was like, I don't know, hour 6 or something by the time I got to the track 6. So I don't know, this was a bit of a rough reaction. Some of the other ones I'll be posting are not as rough, but these early ones, this was actually the first night I'd ever filmed myself reacting to anything. So I'm hoping it'll be more enjoyable to watch where my analysis is sprinkled throughout. And now let's begin the reaction. But Daddy, I Love Him. What a title. It's like such a childish thing to call your dad Daddy, and she's got this innocent, sweet picture of her in a nice dress with a flower, very girly, very soft image at the very beginning of this lyric video. But it makes it sound like this is going to be a song about her dad saying he's no good for you, and she's saying back, but she loves him. I don't know what the nuance is going to be, and I'm excited to hear what it ends up being.
I forget how the West was won. I forget if this was ever fun. I just learned these people only raise you to cage you.
So of course for a song that's about daddy, maybe, I don't know if it's literally about her dad or what, but these people only raise you sounds like people who raise you are your parents, but to cage you, it's like they're keeping you trapped, like your dad says doesn't want to let you go and grow up and start falling in love and all those things or something, maybe. Or maybe this is more going in a different direction I'm not expecting. This part, okay, I forget how the West was won. I believe like this would be a reference to like winning a war for territory, and then
I forget if this was ever fun.
And then it sounds like there's a dynamic between at least two people, or some interpersonal dynamic where it's painful and torturous, almost like it's a war, which we were just talking about a war and evoking a war in the first line, and now they're like, now all you know is the present pain of it.
I just learned these people only raise you to cage you.
But now this seems like such a different line to follow those first two, so I'm not quite following the song yet. So actually also I'm just realizing now that Taylor Swift likes to say the West in a bunch of her songs to kind of reference the situation that happened with Kanye West and her being publicly humiliated, and the whole like Reputation era was like a reaction after a long period of her kind of going into hiding after that. And so it's kind of like the West was won. She might be wondering, because it's like this is another scandal in her life with what the song ends up being about, which I don't really go into much in this reaction and analysis, but most fans interpret this entire song as actually being like some kind of metaphor for what she went through with Matty Healy and the fact that she was dating someone and everyone was like claiming she's ruining her reputation by doing so. Like the fans and the public at large. So with Kanye West, people were talking about her poorly, and she's like saying like, I forget how I got past that. And I forget if being famous was ever fun. That's sort of what I'm getting out of this now.
Sarah's and Hannah's in the Sunday best, clutching their pearls, sighing what a mess.
Sarah's and Hannah's. Well, those are very biblical names, like I think Old Testament names that both Jewish people and Christian people end up named. So yeah, and their Sunday best is a church reference to what they wear to church. So these girls, or women, but women will be the kind of people to say, as they clutch their pearls in a metaphorical way, or literal way, but people will use that as like a hyperbole, exaggeration of, or like such a silly image of like, they're so shocked, and maybe like exaggeratedly shocked, it looks like, is what this really means. I like this little definition too, that, Urban Dictionary, a moment in time that forces one to clasp their hand to their chest, which, is where the pearl necklace would lie, as if trying to protect the pearl necklace. But it's about morally wrong, and that's really specifically relevant to this song. Being an unmarried mother, which is about to come up in this song with the I'm having his baby line, because she was obviously not married at the time to this boy or man that she is, involved with. And it seems like, the phrase pearl clutching is being shocked by something you shouldn't be shocked about, like sex. And that does seem to be basically the theme and thesis of the entire song. So she picked the diction, the word choice in the poetry of the lyrics of this song. It's very, very particular to say clutching your pearls, especially because it's these women from church women wearing a pearl, like it's a literal pearl necklace you can envision, because women who go to church are, in this day and age, some of the most likely people to still wear this style of necklace. I like how this definition includes sanctimonious right in the, They're being judgmental. That's what a mess in clutching pearls seems to be about.
I just learned these people try and save you, because they hate you.
The first thing it made me think of was LGBTQ plus people. I just learned these people try and save you, which is a, Christian savior thing. In the Christian ideology, it's about a literal saving you from the eternal torture of hell. And a lot of evangelical Christians will use the language of saving people. And so it ends up actually being a very specific Christian term, because they hate you. And there's this idea that people will, love the sinner, hate the sin, be pretty bigoted, and basically have a lot of like seemingly like hatred. But then they claim to love you. And some of them really do love you, and it is a genuine concern for you. But there are plenty of Christians who, the way they show that love makes you feel hated for a fundamental part of who you are, or there's just like this like lack of like compassion in their love. There's a lack of anything that seems like love. And yeah. But I will add that not all Christians are rejecting LGBTQ plus people, just like not all Christians are sanctimonious and pearl clutching about sex. And there's a lot of different denominations of Christianity, a lot of different ways to practice within a denomination. I really like how this song as a whole seems to be really criticizing a certain type of Christian mentality, but it's not really about all types of Christians. This could also be like kind of like the petulant teenager thing from earlier in this album, in a lyric in the song Down Bad. Cage you and your parents don't, but daddy, I love him title. Maybe she's just like exaggeratedly being like, they just don't want me to have fun.
Too high a horse for a simple girl to rise above it.
So she's like, I can't rise above it because you're up there on your high horse, which is like you're being all judgmental. You're acting like you're better than all of us. This is a playing with the idioms and making it poetic. I'm reminded of back in Fearless when she says this one horse town, how, you know, bringing up a horse paints a picture of the setting, even though it's actually just an idiom. It's a little bit of multiple things at once in one word that she's doing. So the idiom is like on one's high horse, on your high horse, you're behaving in an arrogant or pompous way. People will say to get down off your high horse or whatever. She said she phrased it in a unique way that isn't usually phrased that way. She said too high a horse, and people don't say that. It's interesting because she's actually able to capture the idiom without even saying the idiom. And then she says to rise above it, which is actually, that's another idiom, right? Let's see. So yeah, to rise above something, to not be affected by it. She can't help but be affected by it. She is offended. She's not rising above it. Rising above is the mature thing to do, and she's not mature right now. And she's too simple a girl. I don't know, the simple, that's like a thing that I think people say when they're being judgmental about you being like boring or dumb. I can't remember what simple implies. When people say simple girl, that itself is an idiom, I think. A simple girl is easygoing, down to earth. She's contented. So she's happy with the way things are. She doesn't need to change the status quo. It's not fussy. Doesn't demand much. Doesn't need much. She'll just take what she's given. And people will say simple girls are childlike, innocent, but unsophisticated is an insult. You know, there's this, I think it's kind of like this complicated, the connotation of this word has so much to it. It's such a good choice of word to put into this song. It's like she's sarcastically, I think, saying that she's a simple girl, right? Or I'm not sure if she's sarcastically saying it. I mean, I know what's coming in the song because I'm analyzing it now after the fact, and she's almost implying a simple girl would be too weak or something, too small to be able to rise above the, you know, like to be able to be so mature. Like she's like, simple girls are childlike. So she's like, you're wanting too much from me. If I'm really this simple girl you think I am. She's implied she had a very small world, caged. And she's about to jump into the opening up of the world and the opening up of the instrumentation in the actual song. And I didn't want to pass by the fact that she's very intentional with the word choice, and simple girl has a lot of layers of meaning.
They slammed the door on my whole world. The one thing I wanted.
They, whoever, I don't know if it's the people at church, her parents, all of them, they weren't okay with it. They weren't even considering it as an option. They maybe prevented it being an option for her. I don't know.
Running with my dress unbuttoned, screaming, but daddy, I love him. I'm having this baby. No, I'm not, but you should see your faces.
I did get a minor spoiler ahead of time about that line, that this was for the fans. I think that I heard someone mentioning, like, you know.
What I think she did is, for one, it was very therapeutic for her. She was telling a story, but she was writing to her fans. And that is so clear in some of the, like the most obvious one is I'm having his baby, you should see your faces. She was just trying to reach her audience.
I don't know. That's really funny. Yes, I saw a Catherine Manning short. I was avoiding clicking on any reactions or listening to the songs, but this was like a short titled about like what the album as a whole can teach fans, and I was just getting so impatient waiting for my laryngitis to clear up so that I could finally listen to this Taylor Swift album, because I had lost my voice and I didn't want to listen to any of it until I could actually film myself reacting to it. So I let myself watch one short and ended up getting spoiled. So now, in a kind of abrupt transition, let's go back to my reaction. It sounded very like she's telling a fictional story in this song, probably. Like just telling a classic little tale about a young girl, or, you know, a teenager who's the adults at church don't, you know, she's still a girl in this song, whoever the main character is. And I mean, it's like risque, like sexy stuff going on or something, running with my dress unbuttoned, like they were caught making out or something and starting to get unbuttoned, and then I don't know, maybe she's like running away from her dad or something. So I cut out a little bit of my monotonous rambling about sexy stuff here. Yeah, my initial reaction, I was noticing that this was risque and sexy, but I was saying it in a tone of voice that's kind of betraying my own asexuality. I hadn't come out as ace on this channel yet in any kind of formal way, but I am a sex-averse asexual, and I probably was going to have to come out as ace when I finally do the reaction and analysis for Guilty as Sin, because I think I was squirming a little bit listening to that song. But yeah, this one's also got some stuff I can't relate to, I guess. The sexual chemistry passion stuff is not my personal experience. And yeah, I brought up LGBTQ plus people earlier, and I am a member of that community. And while I'm coming out as things, this song has so many references to this really Christian environment. And I myself am not Christian. I was raised Catholic. I'm non-religious today. But I don't know if it's fictional. I don't know if this is a metaphor for her actual relationship yet. But she's screaming, "I'm having his baby." No, I'm not, but you should see. So that, she put the quotation mark here, but she could, if I was just listening, she could have put the quotation mark down here. Like, she could scream, "But Daddy, I love him. I'm having his baby." Well, I'm not, but talking to the people at the church, like, "But you should see your faces." Like, that could be really funny too, like how horrified they'd be if they like thought they were actually, you know. But here, yeah, I can see the interpretation that this is totally for the fans, where it's like, it takes a second to be like, is Taylor Swift actually pregnant or something? I mean, I really have, you know, ever since I've, listened to Peace and I think that's Folklore as an album, you know, it's like. So at this point in my reaction, I think I was still thinking about Jo as applying to more of the songs on the album than it turns out she really wrote. And in the song Peace, she had first kind of revealed in this song that seemed very personal and seemed like, even though she said a lot of the songs on Folklore were going to be fictional, I could tell the ones like Invisible String that were personal, and Peace was another one that you could just tell was actually based on her real life and how she can like never give him peace because of who she is. She's Taylor Swift, and it just, like, the song, if you listen to it, it made sense. And she says that she could give him all these things, just not peace, and one of the things is give you my wild, give you a child. So it seemed like she was hinting at, not even just hinting, but like pretty explicitly saying she wanted to have a kid since this song. And it's extra apparent if you listen to the rest of this album. I haven't heard all of the anthology tracks yet. I'm getting there, but loml is also going to mention that she, you know, was very, you know, she really wanted marriage and babies with this line about talking rings and talking cradles. Well, and I know the tabloids, I'm sure, have like kind of driven her crazy with like rumors about maybe she's pregnant or whatever. And when she actually wants that and she hasn't been able to get that yet, it's going to be just so rough. There's also a line in the previous track on this album, track 5, that a lot of fans are interpreting as like part of, you know, your childbearing years are limited, and she is pissed off that she gave away so many of them to her ex Joe Alwyn. So yeah, this line, "I'm having his baby, no I'm not," is in the context of her fame and the rumors about her life and the rest of this album and the lyrics and things she has revealed about her own desires. And it's kind of crazy how much stuff you can think about with this like one like seemingly like, I don't know, silly throwaway line that's like a joke. So I'm telling him to floor it through the fences is another image of like they're escaping and they're literally driving a car that, you know, floor it, like hit your foot on the gas as hard as you can, where it break the fence. You're driving a car through a wooden fence and like leaving without going around the fence. You just go through it. no, I'm not coming to my senses is like everyone thinks she's crazy to be with him. She's not saying she's not crazy. She's saying it's an interesting point, right? I'm not coming to my senses means she's not denying losing it. She's just saying she doesn't want to leave this delusion. I know he's crazy, but he's the one. Oh gosh. Yeah, I like this song. It's an interesting, fun little song. Oh, but he's the one I want. Yeah, I cut it off in the middle of that chorus.
Beautiful daughter, all my plans were laid. Tendrils tucked into a woven braid. Growing up precocious sometimes means not growing up at all.
So precocious is like kind of like you're kind of ahead of yourself. You're kind of like overly eager to. I mean, it is a description for little kids who are like maybe a little bit wild. Okay, maybe wild isn't quite right, but maybe like they sometimes shock those around them because they're boldly saying something that's kind of a little too adult. Like they're a little ahead of themselves, like they're going too far in how adult they are as a young child, saying something adult at an inopportune moment. One thing that's really funny about this is that Taylor Swift herself, like she was only 13 when she was entering the music industry and writing her own songs and trying to go for fame. She did not wait till adulthood to start doing these adult things like trying to have a career. Taylor Swift herself was bold while young, and she was so successful while young, and she's kind of like a classic overachiever even now. I definitely think Taylor Swift herself was precocious, and then it's interesting. It kind of reminds me of Nothing New, where she's talking about, the difference between when you're young, you can have fun, and when you actually do it, you're getting in trouble for it. Like now she's being criticized for not being mature enough, when before, when she was younger, she was complimented for being precocious. And the way she writes in Nothing New, how long will it be cute? When does it stop being cute? When I can't blame it on my youth? When I'm older, are you going to judge me for not being mature enough? But for now, you compliment me for the way I am. It's just a really interesting philosophical reflection on different ways people interpret maybe the same exact types of behavior based on how old you are currently. I don't know, I love the philosophy and the line of growing up precocious sometimes means not growing up at all. She's saying it as a generalized statement about life. I forget what tendrils are. It's is it a flower related thing? Probably. Yes, I guess tendrils is the flower thing I was thinking. I mean, it's not directly related to flowers, it's any plant, but... So it's a pretty picture of a girl with her hair in a braid, flower. So when she says, dutiful daughter, all my plans were laid, she's evoking this best laid plans idiom without saying it in that order, or even without saying the word best. She's using a phrasing that English speakers don't use unless they're using the idiom to talk about laid plans. It's just we don't really say that these days, but it's a vestige from old language to say best laid plans. And so she's really evoking the idea that there was this ideal life laid out ahead of her. And when you say best laid plans, the actual meaning of the idiom is to imply that they go wrong, that they don't come to fruition. I really get the impression that she didn't plan her own life, that there was this way her life was supposed to go, and it's all very passive voice, and it's all very somebody else decided what her life plan would be and what path she was going to be following, and she, was being the dutiful daughter, following, here, look, she was performing what was expected of her. She starts off this whole verse with dutiful, and I think that's a really good setup. The fact that she was following what other people wanted, being deferential, following their rules, following what was expected of her, and the song is going to end with this triumphant, it's my choice, and that's what she's leading to. So she's saying she was someone who didn't make any of her own choices. She's finally making her own choices. This is the setup part where she wasn't like her own person yet. She was just kind of following whatever, and she's singing it with less emotion. She's feeling less emotion. I just find the word choice very impressive, very like perfect. Like she says exactly what she means, and she captures so much in each line and in each specific words. This is the album where she's embracing being a poet. And she really is writing very good poetry here, because every word is so carefully chosen and every line conveys so much. She does it in a way that's pretty unique to poetry, where she knows how to be really concise and like in so few words say so much. And I was prim and proper and like, you know, contained the way I should have been in terms of how I looked and how things were planned. And I was maybe a rule follower even at first. But then I was a bit precocious, and it's like that's how it was started. I was daughter who seemed to be a rule follower, and I'm not really a rule follower. Like I didn't grow up. I don't know.
He was chaos, he was revelry. Bedroom eyes like a remedy.
That's a, you know, seductive thing. Like a remedy, like a cure for he was chaos. So, you know, wild guy shaking up the good girl. Bedroom revelry. That's like, I feel like I know that word, but I forget how to define it. It's like excitement. I don't know what it's like it's something that's like awe-inspiring maybe. I kind of want to look that one up. Boisterous merrymaking. That's not what I was thinking it meant. Boisterous festivity. And okay. So I know what boisterous means. It's like loud and yeah, like kind of like unrestrained, and I mean, yeah, exactly. But yeah, so she's saying he was not just a negative chaos, but like, you know, unexpected, loud, partying, sexy.
Eyes like a remedy. Soon enough, the elders had convened.
The church elders. I like the story of the song, whatever this is. It's quite the poem.
Down at the city hall.
Convened at the city hall, like it's a legal thing to try to like get you. I mean, unless they're about to get married. But we'll see.
Stay away from her.
Stay away from her, but I don't know.
The saboteurs.
Sabotaging her.
Protested too much.
You know, you doth protest too much, so that's a weird one. I feel like protest too much just means, like, usually it's referenced in the sense of you protesting, but you don't really mean it. Like, usually it's used like, you know, if you're going to protest that hard, it must be because deep down you think it's true. But this is not what they're talking about here, so I don't know. The lady doth protest too much, indicating doubt of sincerity. So I guess it's possible that Taylor doubts that the church ladies really feel this strongly about it or really care about her that much, because later she's talking about people pretending to be empathetic, like they're fake empathetic. But yet you use it to accuse someone of being a liar. So it's interesting. But yeah, it's a Shakespeare quote. So in this song, she says the elders, but it's heavily implied because of the context of the whole song that it's church elders, which actually is like a technical term. We're not just talking about people who are older and elder. We're talking about like this Wikipedia article here, like church elders hold a position of authority, responsibility, and are like some of the people in charge. I mean, in some religions and denominations, they even are able to decide if you're like excommunicated or shunned or like kicked out of the community because you broke such a bad moral like violation. And City Hall is the place that the public would go to voice their concerns to the government. It's like a place where residents like attend public meetings, engage with their local government representatives, and helping like influence what laws even are. I'm not sure it's really the place you end up going for, restraining order type thing, but maybe. But yeah, they were sabotaging her and the guy, and they were protesting so much she like wanted to rebel, maybe.
Lord knows the words we never heard, just screeching tires of true love.
Lord knows the words we never heard. They didn't hear whatever they said. Only the Lord knows what they were screaming and shouting as we were driving through the fence away, screeching tires. Because, we were out of earshot. And, of course, her choosing to use the saying, Lord knows, is very intentional. It's like the colors she's painting a painting with. It's like she's painting the song with the word choices. And she's painting a very Christian setting by adding in as many little references to Christianity as are possible. And it was true love. I wonder... I gotta hear the rest of the bridge before I react, I guess. Tell you something about my good name. It's mine alone to disgrace. I don't cater to all these vipers dressed in empath's clothing. Vipers dressed in empath's clothing. Alright, so... I think I get the good name thing, but let's go by line by line. I love the bridge. I mean, I tend to like her bridges, of course, but this is a fun little one. I'll tell you something right now. I'd rather burn my whole life down. I like the all caps. That's a very powerful thing she's saying. Then listen to one more second of all this. So you definitely didn't expect bitchin' to be the next word in this. Bitchin' and moaning is it would be so offensive to the church goers, the proper adults who are trying to help her. They're worried about her ruining her life and stuff. And she's like, I want to burn my whole life down rather than listen to you guys. I think she's talking about them being the bitching and moaning. That was the main thing I wanted to wait to hear the rest of the bridge before I reacted to. It's like, wait, who's doing all this bitching and moaning? It's very passive voice, so you're not 100% sure if she's accusing them of it. I mean, you probably are sure, but there's something about it that's phrased in a way that it's pretty open to interpretation still. And I guess if you think of this as a song for the fans and you think of it as actually about her current breakup, then she's like, maybe she couldn't stand the bitching and moaning in her relationship and she burned her whole life down. I just don't think the saboteurs and the way that she's describing this, people clutching their pearls, I don't feel like bitching and moaning describes the shock and judgment. Moaning and bitching is a very specific kind of connotation about how you're speaking, and it just doesn't seem like the thing I was picturing in my mind for the image she was painting. Tell you something about my good name. It's mine alone to disgrace. So this seems like a powerful little sentiment that would make a lot of sense in this church setting, that they're talking about you're ruining the family name, maybe, is a thing that, her parents might say, or everyone would say, you're bringing shame to your family, and she's like, it's mine to disgrace. Or maybe it would be the guy is ruining her name and she's saying it's my own choice. I feel like I'm missing some obvious nuance here, but I mostly am getting it. She's really taking ownership of whatever's going on about her choices, and anything where people are judging her and saying she's a disgrace to her name or she's ruining her reputation, right? Like the whole Reputation era, right? She was choosing to make a whole album where she's choosing to reclaim her reputation and decide if she wants to quote unquote disgrace it by becoming totally different than her good girl image. That was a big thing for Taylor Swift. I don't cater to all these vipers dressed in empath's clothing. Vipers. The way she said it was she spit it out. It's such an intense thing to be calling these people vipers. So harsh and so, it's so interesting. And then the way she says empath's clothing, if I wasn't reading the lyrics, I might have wondered if she said emperor's clothing, because I know there's a fable about that, but empath's clothing, it's they're acting like they care about her, but they don't. So they're masked, they're empathetic, but they're not. They look like they could be, they acting, something like that. I'm probably way off with this one, but there's a slight chance she actually meant to make us think about the emperor's new clothes with the way she phrased it, because it looks like it's a folktale about being vain and maybe like quote unquote caring about the wrong things. So, I mean, there's some parallel there, but it's probably not an illusion. Also, the next album, or like the anthology part of the album, the track 5 on that one, how did it end? It also has this lyric in the chorus, I think it is, that's the empathetic hunger descends. So she's doing a lot of criticizing fans throughout the Tortured Poets department about like thinking it's empathy, claiming it's empathy, pretending to be empathetic, but deep down it's really kind of like using empathy as a weapon. Like the vipers, I mean, the way she talks about vipers, it's a snake that's gonna like bite you. Like they're like sneaky and slithery and pretend to be something they're not, and they're kind of evil. All the connotations of snakes, and viper seems like one of the harshest, most violent ways to talk about snakes. So I realized I forgot the most obvious thing. The serpent in the Bible, I think it's most famous in the Garden of Eden story with Adam and Eve. They represent the devil. It's another religious imagery choice to bring up a snake in a way that's evil. There's a specific thing here where Jesus called some people a brood of vipers because their wickedness in their hearts. So that's definitely part of what's going on here.
God save the most judgmental creeps who say they want what's best for me, sanctimoniously performing soliloquies I'll never see.
I think there's a lot of extra meaning here. In the story of the song that she's telling, they drove through the fence and the tires were screeching and they couldn't hear whatever only God knows what they were actually saying, right? The Lord knows. But so again, they're sanctimoniously performing soliloquies. Like you're saying all this like stuff that she'll never even hear, right? She'll never see their performance. She's not even there. But then, the actual double entendre meaning, or the extra, there's this God thing, because she's making a statement for the sake of the story of the song, but, making a lot of church and God and religion imagery. They say they want what's best for me, but they're being really judgmental, and she's turning it back on them. She's being like, I hope God saves you instead of saves me, because you're so judgmental and you're being sinful, and God needs to save you is kind of her point. She's pushing it back on them. Sanctimoniously. Yeah, sanctimoniously is such a, she's really making it clear, like they say that in that kind of tone of voice, and it's so obnoxious, and it's so performing soliloquy. Also like performing, and then before you even see the next word appear in this lyric video, there's a gap, right? There's enough like sort of like cadence where performing is somewhat emphasized, because it's it's on its own for a moment before you hear what they're performing, and performing implies it's all an act, it's all fake. I also think it's a little bit funny that she doesn't end up using the word preach at any point in this entire song. But sanctimoniously performing soliloquies is a really poetic way to say, like, you're just preaching at me.
Thinking it can change the beat of my heart when he touches me, and counteract the chemistry and undo the destiny.
And this part just seems like the story of the song. This is just very sweet, kind of. I mean, she's saying, like, they think what they say can stop me from feeling so in love with him.
Change the beat of my heart.
Right, she, when he touches her, the whole beat of her heart changes.
When he touches me, and counteract the
and there's a lot about the chemistry.
chemistry and undo the destiny.
I mean, a lot about the chemistry, meaning like bedroom eyes and a few other moments in the song, unbuttoned shirt. But yeah, and then she's but I love him, but it's destiny, but I'm having his baby or whatever. There's a very innocent, like, fantasy of a future here. Undo the destiny. I don't know. It's an interesting song. That's sweet. Yeah, now I'm finally thinking this could be about her rebound relationship. I hate to bring it up because I really don't know anything. I've barely seen people talking about, the fact that I think she did have some kind of maybe more fun, not meant to be serious relationship. And yeah. So it's possible this whole song was about that. You ain't got to pray for me. You don't have to worry about me. You don't have to try to save me. She's talking about destiny earlier, and there's all this other stuff that's about love. So one of my favorite lines in the song is actually the way she used, you don't have to pray for me, or you ain't gotta pray for me. The ain't is painting the picture of the southern setting. Basically, there is a lot of added context given the nature of this song, and the try to save you because they hate you is really a related line, I feel like, to the praying for you. Like back to my association I first thought of with gay people, there's this idea of praying away the gay, right? There's this idea of I want something so different for you than what you want for yourself, maybe, that I'm gonna try to pray to God and hope that God helps make it happen. It's actually really ignoring your agency and completely not talking to you. It's talking around you to God and ignoring what you're saying back to them and ignoring your thoughts and feelings on the matter, especially if you don't believe the same thing that they believe. It's one thing if someone were to pray privately for them. It's another thing if they're telling you they're praying for you, because that's not what you want to hear. So why are you saying it? It's a weird, showy, I don't know. But this part, where I know that she talked about the guy being crazy and stuff before, but this sounds very wild, but it's joy, and that's pretty wonderful. All you want is boringness, probably, and she's just treating it like it's white noise. I like the juxtaposition of gray and white, and it's just my choice. There's a lot of let me have my own choices in this song as the main message or something.
There's a lot of people in town that I bestow upon my fakest smiles.
So she's saying, I fake smiles with so many people in this town.
Scandal does funny things to pride, but brings lovers closer.
Scandal brings lovers closer. So scandal does funny things to pride. That's such an interesting line. So she's kind of talking about the shame of a scandal, and the shame being the opposite of pride. But she's not just talking about that. I think she's saying there's multiple layers to it, because you can start to be proud, more proud of your choice. You have to defiantly be proud, and you can there's so many, I don't know, maybe there's pride of other people involved in the scandal, their judgmental high horse kind of pride, where they're thinking they're better than you and they're proud of themselves. But yeah, the brings lovers closer is just fun. And of course I get it, right? If you're in the midst of a scandal and you're the target of it, the fact that you were the target is all those songs she has about being the wolves and being chased by the paparazzi, or the being anything where you feel attacked or you feel judged then you're in it together, and it does add this intimacy potentially. It can do things where your heightened emotions about it all, and the heightened emotion is part of getting closer.
We came back when the heat died down. Went to my parents and they came around. All the wine moms are still holding out.
Oh, they went away right as I paused it. So they came back to town after the scandal. The heat of it died down. And my parents came around. So the parents were okay with it? But the wine moms are still holding out.
Now, but fuck 'em, it's over.
Holding out, but fuck 'em, it's over. What, holding out for what? For you to break up? Or what's over? the scandal's over, but there were people still like gossiping, like the wine moms are, it's quite the image. I'm not a fan of self-proclaimed wine moms.
Just still holding out, but fuck 'em, it's over.
So she's like almost saying that, not singing that. I like it.
Dancing in my dress in the sun, and even my daddy just loves it.
Well, that's quite the twist. Now I'm dancing in my dress in the sun. That's really sweet. And even my daddy loves him. That is nice. I like that. I didn't expect that.
I'm his lady, and oh my God, you should see your faces.
Well, now I'm thinking that the twist didn't really happen. I don't know what this means. Are they still talking to the church ladies maybe on some level of the song, where it's like they're shocked that she really did end up with him and it really was serious?
Doesn't it give some perspective? I know you can't come to the wedding.
No, you can't come to the wedding. I love that.
I know he's crazy, but he's the one. I'll tell you something right now. You ain't gotta pray for me. In my wild boy, on his wild joy. He was revelry. If all you want is great for me, it's just white noise. It's my choice. Screaming my daddy, I love it.
I just realized this whole thing is black and white or gray, and she says, if all you want is gray for me. So that's interesting that she chose for like a thing that was about like how he brought color to her world, that she's only showing the gray part. Like the whole Tortured Poets entire album is black and white, I think. It's been pretty monochrome. I was going to say monotone, but pretty desaturated and limited colors and grayscale and stuff. We definitely had one of those you should see your faces type moments when I first heard "You're Losing Me" and I heard the "and I wouldn't marry me either" line, because that was very like, oh my gosh, did she just reveal that? She's basically saying like she wanted to marry him and he wouldn't do it, and she revealed it in just a line casually like that, and said it's kind of funny. Like, I mean, there's, oh my god, you should see your faces. That is definitely quite the line. I wish I hadn't had it spoiled. I tried not to have spoilers. That's one of the only spoilers I had for the entire album, but like I heard someone mention that and I didn't even know which song it was going to be in, but yeah. So that's my reaction and analysis, and I almost forgot to pick a favorite lyric for this song, which I'm doing in all of these videos, picking my favorite line in the song. And that's really hard in this one. I definitely love way too many of the lyrics, and I'm really impressed by so many of them poetically. Trying to decide like pretty like last minute here. I mean, some of the contenders for me are definitely like No, I'm Not Coming to My Senses, because that's like such an interesting thing in light of the entire album. Too High a Horse for a Simple Girl to Rise Above It, because I spent so long analyzing it because there's so much to that line. So I feel like that's definitely like one of my favorites. I was really impressed with just how much she got into that line. But there's also like growing up precocious sometimes means not growing up at all, which like, it's like, that's a quite the line. I know tons of people really like some of the ones near the very end, like in the bridge. I feel like there's so many good lines, but I'm gonna say, yeah, one of those two is probably my favorite. So which one is my favorite? I'm gonna say it's the Too High a Horse for a Simple Girl to Rise Above It one. Because, I mean, it just, the more I thought about it, the more I loved the line. This is going to be a whole playlist of the Tortured Poets Department songs. Please just watch the whole playlist linked here and make sure you subscribe so you can see when the next one gets posted. Thanks so much for being here on this journey with me.